Hello everyone and welcome back to Make the Music. In today's video, we're going to discuss the proper procedure to setting up your mix for success. There's no question that I think the beginning of the mixing stage is the most important when it comes to getting your best possible mix for your track. If you start off on the wrong foot and make some mistakes, well, it's just going to be an uphill battle the whole time. Why not set yourself up properly so that when you go through the entire mixing stage, everything is flowing seamlessly, everything is working properly, and you're going through the right sequence of events in terms of your entire mixing process from start to finish. So let's talk about the things that we can do to help improve the mixing process overall. I have a mix here of a track I released 6 or 7 months ago for a song challenge that we did on the channel. You can check those videos out in the playlist there. But I'm going to go through what my process is, and I'll see if this rings true for you, and maybe you can try it out on your next mix. So the first thing to help set up your mix for success is track organization and proper track organization. I'm going to go through some of that here with you, but I really think it's important to stack your tracks in the proper location and color code them so you know what you're dealing with in the entire mixing process. If everything is jumbled up and out of control, you don't know where anything is on the mixing screen because you haven't done your job in terms of organization, that's going to be a big problem when it comes to your mixing stage, because when you want to make a move on the kick drum or you want to increase the vocal volume, you need to know where those things are, and you need to know where those things are fast when you're in the creative process. You don't want to spend your time fishing around trying to find things. It's like if you're going to go cook your favorite meal. When you're in a kitchen you're familiar with, you know where the pots and pans are, you know where the salt and pepper is. But if you're in someone else's kitchen, you don't know where anything is. You become confused, things become disconnected. So I'm going to show you here is I have my tracks stacked in a very logical manner. Let's see if I can increase the size of some of these so you can see what is going on here. But at the top, I like to put my drum tracks. I have them all in a folder in Reaper, bus to the drums folder. You can see anything that is drums or percussion related, all is in this track folder. And then what I like to do, I wanted to do this with you guys, is I will make them all one color. So I'll make them all this green color. That's typically what I do with the drums. So now whenever I'm up here, I know I can find my drum track. And if there are specific tracks that you want a little more emphasis on than others, you could color code them slightly differently. For example, maybe you decide you want all your kick tracks actually a different shade of green, but still in the drum world. You could do that so you know what you're looking at. Same thing with bass instruments. I like to use a darker color for bass, like a dark blue color. So I know I'm looking at bass instruments when I'm there. For acoustic guitars and guitars in general, I tend to use something like this red color here. Since there's multiple kinds of guitars, I'll be using multiple shades of red just so I know what I am dealing with. So I'll use that red there. I'll use this red here. So now we've got some red, blue, and green. I know what I'm looking at. And then pianos and strings, since the pianos are quite prominent in this song, the pianos get their own shade of purple here. And then for strings, I like to pick a lighter color. Let's do this. Let's do a pink color there. And then we've got some choirs and FX and finally some vocals. So for the choir tracks, I like to pick something light again. Let's do this lighter green color. And then for FX tracks, I'm not too, I don't mess around too much with those during the mix, but for my FX tracks, we'll make it that brown color. And then finally, my vocals, what I'm going to do is make them all this sort of light blue color, or this light pink color up here. Now I know what I'm dealing with in the mix. So when I'm navigating through, or maybe I'm in the mixing tab, I know exactly where I am and I know how to navigate to get where I need to go. And things are laid out in a logical fashion. For example, in the vocals, I like to put lead vocals up at the top, because they're going to be more prominent and important than some random harmony down here or some background vocal. So that is really going to help you increase the efficiency of your mixing process, really make it so that when you do make a move, you know where to go, and that whole kitchen theory comes true, you know what to reach for. Let's talk about the second thing that's really going to help your process when it comes to setting up your mix. The second thing would be proper balance and or gain staging. So what am I referring to here? When you get tracks to mix, you want to spend a little bit of time investigating what you have been given and find out if any of the tracks you have are either clipping way too loud when compared to other tracks. Try to get everything at a similar-ish level so you're not doing anything too crazy when it comes to your volume faders. So for example, we can see here this kick track. when I play it. Let me take some of the processing off to give you an idea here. Okay, it's peaking around -9. I'm not too concerned about the volume. I would be if it was clipping, but it's peaking around -9. The waveform is healthy. I'm not going to mess with that. But if you're given tracks that are really, really, really quiet, for example, let's look at these acoustic guitars, very, very quiet tracks down here. With the fader boosted 10 dB, it's still kind of petering out at -12. What I might do, which you can do in Reaper very easily, is come into item processing or properties and actually boost the track itself. So I might boost the track up like 9 dB so that we're dealing with something that is a little more of a reasonable volume level, and I won't have to go so hard with the compression and EQ and processing there. So that's another thing you can do. Vocals is another great one. Finding a way to level and normalize your vocals is a really good decision at a certain level. So to normalize in Reaper, and all that does is it just brings up the peaks of your specific track and caps it out somewhere. So in Reaper, if you go to items processing, normalize items, what I like to normalize is the peak of a vocal. That's the peak volume at -4. So if the peak was at -10, for example, it brings the whole vocal up 6 dB. And when I do this to every vocal track, it now makes, no matter when I recorded the track, how loud I was singing, it kind of brings all the vocals up to a similar volume, because vocals, when they're recorded with a condenser and you record at a conservative volume, which I recommend, they can come in kind of quiet and they can be kind of a bear to work with, because you're having to bring the faders way up, feed them into compressors, really boost the volume there. To get it even with the rest of the track, I just like to automate them, or I should say normalize them to that -4. So they're kind of on par with the rest of the tracks when I go into the mixing stage. So investigate your tracks, find where there's pops, clicks, and noises, find what's really low volume. If there's something that's clipping, if there's a track where the waveform is just clipping, bring that waveform down. This is going to give you a lot less work in the volume and compression stage of your mix. And it's also not going to blow out your mix bus when you add those effects processing in. I would say the third thing to help increase or improve your setup process for your mixes is have your plugins ready to go that you commonly use. So here's an example. In Reaper, the Reaper stock EQ and compressor I use a lot. And so at the beginning of the mix, I might do something like this, where I have the stock Reaper EQ, and this can be any EQ and compressor plugin that you use. It doesn't have to be the stock Reaper. It can be your stock Cubase, stock Logic, or it could be something like the Virtual Mix Rack, the CL76, whatever you use in your mixes. But now I have that EQ and compressor queued up and ready to go. The reason I chose stock plugins is they tend to not tax your CPU so heavily, and have those ready to go on a lot of your tracks and your buses. And this can really help just make it so that, hey, you want to make an EQ or compression change? Well, the plugin is already on there. And another good tip would be do this on an entire session, organize it out, and then make that a template. So whenever you do a mix, you only have to do that once. But now when I go to reach for EQ or compression on a bass track or on a guitar track, it's already there and I can make the changes I need to make. So that's a really great tip. Also, maybe set up your reverb, returns, and delays at the bottom of your mix that you commonly use. This can be done in mix templates. This is why mix templates are really useful. But doing this as a habit for all of your mixes, having that EQ and compression ready. Like I said, it can be your favorite EQ and compression plugin, does not have to be the stock one. And just at the end of the session, you can delete all the ones you didn't use to reduce the CPU output of your session as a whole. But having those ready means you can just go to those things whenever you're ready in the mix and make the changes. Everything will now go very, very smoothly. And I'm actually going to add a bonus tip to the end of this video here. Have your master bus with all your master bus plugins or master bus chain ready to go at the beginning of your mix. Don't think about that when you're in the middle of the mixing stage. Put it on in the beginning. You know the plugins you're going to use. You know the plugins you like to use. For some of you, it's just one plugin. Throw that SSL compressor on there. For me, it's a few more plugins. And so I have a chain that's loaded before I begin every single mix so that when I go to mix it, it's going through this chain because it can really affect the final sound of the mix as a whole. I'll play some of the mix for you and bypass the master bus. It makes a big difference on mine. It does a lot for me in terms of reeling in and gluing the mix. So it makes a big difference. Why throw that on at the end? I have it on in the beginning, so I know exactly what I'm doing through the mixing process. I know I'm hearing what I want to hear in the final stage. So those are my 3+1 bonus tips to helping you prep your mix for success. I hope that video was helpful. If you have any troubles with your mixing or producing in your home studio, go ahead and contact me down below. I'd be happy to help you out. I also have a lot of additional free videos on my channel. And if you go to Patreon, I have more exclusive videos there about mixing and production in the home studio. So go ahead and check those out. Thank you so much for watching. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.